This is Dr. Mark Hitchcock, and I'll welcome you to Marking the End Times. This is a program that's designed to help you understand the times in which we live from a Bible prophecy perspective. And on today's show, I want to talk to you about wars and rumors of wars. We all see wars breaking out in our world today, but we have a lot of rumors of wars that are out there. It just seems like we live in a world that's precarious, and that war can break out at any moment. And this is a major sign of the end times according to God's word. I also want to answer some subscriber questions, really good questions. One is about people who commit suicide. Will they go to heaven? That's a very relevant question, sadly, today with surging suicide in our world. I'm also answering a question about what happens to babies and infants when the rapture takes place. And another question about, is there going to be revival in the end times, great spiritual revival? So hang on a little bit later. We'll answer those subscriber questions. But I want to talk to you about wars and rumors of wars. Our world today is a powder keg. We all see that. It just seems like there's trouble on every front. And it seems like war could just erupt at any moment. Seems like things are just, on a razor's edge, and almost like the fuse has already been lit. And we know that the Bible tells us that's one of the major signs of the end. Now, there have always been wars, and there have always been rumors of wars. I mean, that's a part of the fallen nature of humanity, that we fight with ourselves, we fight with our friends and our neighbors, and nations fight against nations. But it's going to ratchet up as the end times draw near. Jesus says in Matthew 24 that one of the signs will be there'll be wars and rumors of wars. Nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. In fact, that's the very second sign Jesus gives. The first one is there's going to be a deception. It's going to be ultimately kind of reach its crescendo in this Antichrist. Going to be false messiahs, ultimately headed up in this one great false messiah that will come, the Antichrist. But the very next sign is these wars and rumors of wars. When you go over to Revelation chapter 6, you see the same pattern there. When the seal judgments are opened, the first seal is a rider on a white horse. Rider on the white horse there, I believe, is the Antichrist. Over in Revelation 19, Jesus is coming back on a white horse as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So the Antichrist at the beginning of the tribulation rides forth on a white horse as a counterfeit Christ or a counterfeit Messiah. But the very next seal judgment is a rider on the red horse. And the horse is blood red, and this rider has a great sword that's dripping in blood. And it says he's going to come and take peace from the earth. So Matthew 24 and Revelation 6 are very parallel to one another. We also know that during the tribulation period, there's going to be an Ezekiel 38-39 war, where Russia and Iran and Turkey and some other Islamic nations are going to attack Israel in the end times. And of course, the whole tribulation culminates with the campaign of Armageddon. And this week, Jimmy Evans and Bill Salas talked about a Psalm 83 war that many believe will happen in the end times as well. So a lot about war and rumors of war in the end time. And when we look around today, there are a lot of global hotspots, several wars currently going on. We all know about the war over with Russia and Ukraine. That's really the main one that's kind of engulfing the world today. But there's also a war taking place down in Yemen. There's a major civil war in Myanmar or Burma. We know about the ongoing really war between Israel and the Palestinians and Hezbollah to their north. Many believe that you could really describe Mexico today as a nation at war, as all the drug wars and the cartels that are involved there. One other thing many people don't think about today is Iran actually is engaged in war. I read an article this week that said this, the headline, it says, Ukraine is now at war with Ukraine. And another article I read said, for the first time in its history, Iran now is at war with Europe, because obviously Ukraine is on the European continent. And that's a fascinating thought, is that this is the first time that Iran has been at war on the European continent. Iran has soldiers in Ukraine. They have a part of the Revolutionary Guard Corps is there. They've sent sophisticated drones to Russia to use against Ukraine. They've also sent ballistic missiles to Russia as well. So Iran really is engaged in war today on Russia's side against Ukraine. So those are some of the wars that are going on, but there's also really a staggering number of rumors of wars. that are out there today on the horizon. A couple of these that I'm sure all of us are familiar with. One is in China. China has been rumbling for years now of their desire to take Taiwan. Taiwan is an island of 24 million. China considers Taiwan to be part of China. So they're going to take it at some point in time. There have been a lot of threats recently. Many believe that because of the current administration that we have appearing to be somewhat weaker, that Xi Jinping is being emboldened. Others would say that since Russia has gone into Ukraine, and of course they've been opposed somewhat by the West, but not too strenuously, that's also emboldened China as well. But Xi Jinping, who's the president now, I guess president for life now in China because of the new elections, or really just the appointment of him to that position, he has basically just here recently told his army to focus on preparation for war. So on the horizon is this Chinese invasion of Taiwan. And really it's something that could happen at any point in time. It's a kind of just constantly under the surface out there. It's a rumor of war. We also see the same thing in North Korea today. Kim Jong-un, the leader there, has told his leaders there to be prepared, have preparedness for actual war. There's been a record number of missile tests in North Korea in 2022. They've even had a testing of an intercontinental ballistic missile. Of course, we know those could even, reach Europe or the United States. But here just recently, a couple weeks ago, in North Korea, they had 80 missile tests in 1 week and a 23 missile barrage just in one day. So again, in North Korea, they're helping out Russia. They're closer in their relationships with China today. So all these bad actors are kind of being emboldened today to act more aggressively. Another point is over in Russia. Now, we all know what's happening between Russia and Ukraine, but here just a few days ago, a missile landed over in Poland, killing 2 people. Now, it's under investigation. Was this a Russian missile? Was it a Ukrainian missile? No one really knows. But immediately, Twitter began to break out and Facebook all over. People were saying, this could be the beginning of World War III. And while World War III, I don't think is going to happen from this, a kind of an errant missile going into Poland. But Poland is a NATO nation. And with NATO, all the NATO nations, there's something known as Article 5 of the NATO agreements that if one nation is attacked, all are attacked and all will come to the defense of that one nation. So if something goes awry over there with Russia, with some of these surrounding nations, or if Russia was to invade one of these nations, all the NATO nations would be pulled into this. And again, I don't think anything's going to come out of this missile landing in Poland. It could have even been a Ukrainian missile. They're still investigating that. But I think it just shows how, again, precarious the situation is, that one small misstep could spark a global war. One other rumor of war that has been going on here now for about the last 2 weeks that's really gotten the attention of the leadership in America is with Iran. Now, Iran, I think, is already involved in war in Ukraine. They're involved in a war, but there's also rumors of war with Iran. Iran, about a week or 2 ago, there's a lot of intelligence that came out from Saudi Arabia that was shared with the United States that Iran was threatening to attack Saudi Arabia. Iran is helping rebels down in Yemen, down south of Saudi Arabia, to be a constant harassment to Saudi Arabia. But remember, several years ago, a missile that's believed to be an Iranian missile hit some of the oil facilities in Saudi Arabia. And of course, right now, with oil prices like they are, if Saudi Arabian oil infrastructure was hit, who knows what the price of oil would go to. And many believe that Iran right now is doing this and making these threats and could possibly even do something against Saudi Arabia to shift the focus off of the protests that are taking place in their own nation that continue to gain momentum. So, leaders like that will do all kinds of things they can to get the focus off of what they're doing. So Iran, recently, their leaders have said this. They said, our strategic patience may run out, talking about their relationship with Saudi Arabia. So you look around the world today, there's this one big war of Russia-Ukraine. You have a war in Yemen. You have a war in Myanmar. You have the Israeli-Palestinian ongoing conflict. You have Iran now at war for the first time in Europe. And then you have these rumors of wars, and these are big rumors. China to Taiwan, North Korea with its nuclear capability, Iran threatening Saudi Arabia, and just the whole Russia-Ukraine war and how that could easily spread to become a regional or even a global conflict. So what Jesus predicted of wars and rumors of wars seems to be ratcheting up again and gaining escalation in our world today. And I don't know about you, but when I see what's happening in our world today, one of the things that I'm very grateful for is that the Bible tells me as a believer in Jesus Christ that I have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. In a world of war and a world of anger and aggression, you and I can trust in Jesus and we can have peace with God. And not only can we have peace with God, but the Bible tells us we can have the peace of God that passes all understanding. And I pray that in a world that has so much disturbance in it right now and so much confusion and turmoil, that you and I can enjoy the peace of God, even in the midst of these circumstances, as we trust in Him and we recognize His sovereignty. And of course, the greatest news of all is that someday Jesus Christ is going to come back, the Prince of Peace. And He's going to bring peace to this war-torn world in which we live. And that's the hope that you and I live with in these days. And of course, as the Christmas season is approaching, we think about that even more and more in the great passage in Isaiah 6, where Jesus, or in Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 6, where Jesus is our Prince of Peace. Well, thank you so much for watching today. Right now, we're going to go into the subscriber-only portion of the program. I'm going to be answering a question about those who commit suicide. Can they go to heaven? About the rapture when it takes place. Will babies and infants, will they go to heaven? And a question about revival in the last days or in the end times. So if you'd like to access the answers to these questions, go to endtimes.com and you can sign up there for only $7 a month and get access to this show and the questions I'm going to answer and a lot of other great archive material that's there. I encourage you to become a subscriber. It's a low price for today with all the inflation we're seeing, just $7 a month. And so for those of you who are already subscribed, let's dive into these questions now.